It is Friday, April 27th. Let's talk PlayStation. Okay, we'll kick it off with our first news story. Housemarque, if you remember, the developer Housemarque has a long history with PlayStation, makes a lot of twin-stick shooters for PlayStation, and if you remember, not too long ago, they made a blog post saying that, you know what, twin-stick shooters just ain't selling all that well, our games haven't been doing all that well, it's kind of a dead genre, we need to move on. And I told you guys I will keep you updated on what they end up doing. Well, now we know what they're doing, and it's going to be a multiplayer focused centric type game called Storm Divers. Now we get a little teaser for the game, but we have no idea what it is. This is these guys are really good. They're very talented people, and they make really great games. They make really great arcade style games, but they are going in a completely new direction. And based off the fact that they do make such quality games, I am interested to see what they'll do moving forward. Can't really blame them for trying to approach something that may be a little bit more opening to our current market conditions, which is unfortunate, but I wish them the best. And speaking of market conditions, this one goes nicely into our next news story, which is that H1Z1 finally coming to PS4 May 22nd, and surprisingly and unsurprisingly enough, Battle Royale mode will be coming straight to PS4. So this game's been out for a while now on PC and like beta form, and you know, gradual updates and things like that have been pushed out slowly for the game. And the game was slated to come out on PS4 for a long time. Initially, when it was announced a PC and PS4 title, and originally sort of focused as a zombie game, and then they kind of split that off into two different paths for that game. But you can expect it now finally on PS4, and hey, you know, this will be a console exclusive for the game. Might do well for Sony. I'm sure they would be pretty pleased if this game grabbed some decent attention. Although this game has already seen a lot of its limelight on YouTube and streaming and stuff like that, because the game has been out on PC for quite some time. So, you know, I feel like this might be a situation where the game comes out and nobody gives a flying crap about it, but you know, we'll see what happens. So we got a lot of Detroit Become Human news stories, because guess what? It's getting closer to the game's release. It's coming out May 25th, and guess what? The game has officially gone gold, but that's not the news stories that I want to talk to you about. Just the pure fact that it's getting so close means we're finally going to see a lot more about this game, which is getting me super pumped up and excited, because you guys know I've been like really excited for Detroit Become Human. I'm really pumped for this game. Anyway, the first actual news story is that there's a demo available. So you can actually play the hostage situation. That's some gameplay that we've seen for a long time now, which is the one android that actually works with the police force, and he's trying to talk Daniel, the other android, out of you know, keeping the little kid from, you know, not dying or whatever. It's a hostage situation, right? Now, the reason why I'm being so vague is because I actually have not played the demo, and I'm purposely not playing the demo. I want to wait until the game comes out, and I want to just enjoy the whole game from start to finish. But this demo is available if you want to go download it and check it out and see what Detroit is all about. And I don't blame you if you do. Another thing that we know about the game is there's two difficulty settings for the game. So one is casual. That might be pretty self-explanatory. It's going to be focused primarily on the story. Might make it a little bit easier to pick certain choices and you know, have the heat of the moment not be so intense for the game. I can see how they can certainly lighten it up a bit. But then the other mode is experience. So this is going to give you the classic situation of how we've been enjoying Quantic Dream's games for a while now, which is that you're going to have, you know, very, you know, quick time events and things like that. You're gonna have to make your choices relatively soon, and there's heavy consequences for the things that you do. So possibly it'll only take you a few false choices to possibly lose a character or have some sort of major ending in the game, some abrupt ending in the game. You know what I'm saying? Like the game, of course, has many various branching paths, and so experience pretty much means, you know, give me the full shindig, if you will. And then moving on from that point, talking about those branching paths, Quantic Dream also mentioned how there's actually an easier way to check out all those branching paths in the game. As evident from the demo, you can actually go back and pick specific checkpoints that you can load right then and there, and then possibly pick a different path, and you're rewarded with all those with exploring the different options that you have for the game, offering a much greater sense of replayability. Now, if you're familiar with Heavy Rain or Beyond Two Souls, Quantic Dream didn't really make it entirely easy for you to check out all those branching paths in those games. It was very unfriendly. You had to do a lot of manual saving and things like that. Sometimes you'd have to go back pretty far, and then make very specific choices just to lead to one different outcome. It's kind of a pain in the ass. But with this game, they're kind of embracing it, and I think that's certainly the right way to go, especially given the fact that we're in this YouTube, Twitch streaming landscape where a lot of people are going to see this game before they even maybe get their hands on it. And so they're kind of embracing the fact of like, all right, well, people are going to check out this game. Let's make it a little bit more accessible for everybody to see where certain scenes can play out and where certain things can go. And in terms of what you'll possibly unlock, they didn't say too much about that. They said concept art and stuff like that, so I wouldn't expect too much in terms of rewards. But either way, concept art is always dope. And in fact, that's something I wish a lot of games always did, was offer concept art near the end of the game, or possible unlockables for picking up a lot of collectibles and things like that. I'm one of those people that always enjoys that kind of stuff. So sign me up for this being cool for sure. Now for our final Quantic Dream news story, you will remember that a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, something like that, there was two outlets that were reporting about poor work conditions at Quantic Dream, whether it was racial bias or unfit conditions for women, slanderous, discussions and things like that going on. Just overall not a very cool place to work, and certainly a lot of people approaching higher ups within Quantic Dream and then being shot down, and overall that's what the publications were covering, right? Well, it turns out Quantic Dream is taking legal action against Le Monde and Mediapart. So this will be very interesting, because this apparently means Quantic Dream has some sort of heavy confidence that the reports are bullshit, despite the fact that we do have a lot of reports from people that were previously with the company and at that point certainly have no skin in the game to not talk about what happened to them. And now this is definitely going to go to, this may be a very real thing where it goes to trial, and we have to get a whole bunch of evidence being presented from both the journalists and Quantic Dream to disprove one another. And so we might actually get a greater picture painted in front of us of what actually went down. And this will also be kind of I would say somewhat of a landmark case, because there's not many examples, if any at all, from what I can remember, where a developer is suing a publication for well, what they feel to be slander, right? Because that's kind of what they're doing. That's what Quantic Dream at least feels they're being accused of, right? So this is like kind of a big deal. We can't talk much about it now until like we see more about this, and court cases take a long time. So it may be a very long time before we talk about this again, but at least this process is being started. For our final news story, we got some Final Fantasy VII Remastered rumors, so keep it with a grain of salt, because this is nothing entirely concrete, but it seems like there's a certain level of credence to this where I could see this being a very real possibility given what we know and given what the current circumstances are. But anyway, what we appear to know right now from this current rumor is that Final Fantasy VII Remaster is not 4 years in development, it's actually 2 years in development, and when the game was taken away from the original developer CyberConnect 2, the game was actually entirely scrapped. So the 2 years of work that CyberConnect did was basically thrown out the window, and Square Enix started pretty much from scratch, because everything that CyberConnect apparently did wasn't very good. So this is originally coming from a Reddit interview. Well, really it was a Reddit thread based on the interview, but anyway, it's just a standard interview, question answer, things like that, PR answers and whatnot. But somebody in the comments, by the name of Dan Tsukasa, apparently works in the Japanese games industry and knows it quite well, and is responding to people even asking about the legitimacy of this, saying, are you sure this is true? And he basically says along the lines of, well, yeah, it's Tokyo. Everybody knows somebody from Square Enix. Square Enix is quite a large developer and publisher in Japan, right? So he's just kind of making the association of like, oh, if you work in the games industry, you probably know some people at Square Enix. And he basically said in a number of different comments that the game's director, Nomura, is barely even there. He's director largely in name alone. He spends the vast majority of his time in Osaka on Kingdom Hearts 3. Then he says what I just told you. They don't have 4 years of work. They have 2. They started it again because CyberConnect work was just so useless and not far along enough, but still large enough along that remaking it was faster than refactoring it. But the user basically ends it by saying, I can only prove that I work in the games industry in Japan. I can't prove who I do and don't know. Which is why I'm kind of thinking, like, all right, this is certainly a very real thing, right? This could possibly be this could be real. And it's not surprising. I mean, that's the thing, too, is why I want to talk about it, because, like, who didn't see this coming, right? Because we haven't seen anything about the game in a long time. Square Enix is very standoffish about it. Like, they'll talk about it, but they won't talk about it in great circumstances. And this is, like, just classic Square Enix with, like, how they do their games. Like, they just take so goddamn long. And it's just a situation where, like, it seems every single time they've got these projects that go on for so long, and there's some sort of, like, major bump in development. Whether that's just them going at an extremely slow pace, or the game being started and then moved to another team, the game being scrapped and entirely redone from the start, the game being moved from one platform to another. It just seems like this is something that happens so often with them, right? Or at the very least, often enough with a lot of their big budget games. And I don't know, I mean, it's like, I don't want to sit here and, like, just talk shit like, oh, Square Enix sucks ass, why can't they be better about it? But it's just, like, it's just time and time again where you see all these Western developers just knocking out these fantastic, incredible games in 3-4 years' time. And they're just so well polished and gorgeous looking, and even when they take longer, I mean, at least they come out. And, you know, they look fantastic. I mean, it's tomato. You can't really, I understand it's two different work environments and it's two different territories for that matter, and it's all entirely different, right? But it's all the games industry, and it just seems like this is a habitual problem for Square Enix with a lot of their games. And so, yeah, they're 2 years in development. Who knows what it really looks like? I mean, so a lot of the footage that we've seen for the game so far, that was all, like, CyberConnect stuff, right? So the game might even look a little bit, like, it might look different, like, a little different or dramatically different from what we've seen of it so far. But there's some Final Fantasy VII Remastered news, and it's not very good. Those are some of the news stories that I want to talk about with you guys this week. So, as I had mentioned the past 2 weeks or so, like, I'm not sure if I'm going to have... I have videos saved up and ready to go, but I don't want to just upload them in the midst of, like, nobody watching them, especially when God of War came out, right? So I'm actually working on a God of War video. And I don't even think it's, I don't know, it's kind of a review, but not really, not a traditional review that you'd expect from this channel. But I will also warn, once again, I'm just finding a really hard time to find time to play the game, although I'm thoroughly enjoying it so far. Early impressions of what I can give you right now, at least, I fucking love it. And I know a lot of you guys are already done with the game and whatnot. I wish I had that kind of time nowadays, but I would love to do a little bit of coverage on God of War. Anyway, I guess you could expect a video Monday. It would be a random video that you aren't expecting, which a lot of you have been very vocal in saying, I really enjoy the new stuff. It's awesome. So thank you for enjoying the new stuff. I appreciate it. All I ask is that you check it out and let me know if you like it or don't like it, and we'll keep that conversation going to keep some new uploads going, and we'll all have just have a fun time here. Anyway, it's getting super late, so I gotta end this thing and start editing. Which, by the way, there might not be a whole lot of B-roll for this video, or maybe it's lazily edited. I don't know. Sometimes it's terrible when I have, like, Thursday day plans, and then it's like, oh man, it's getting late. I gotta get home. I gotta start this video, and then it gets later and later, and then now I'm in front of the camera being really tired. So that's what you get with me. But oh well, never missed an episode, never will. That concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Ryan, and I thank you all so much for talking with me, and I'll see you guys next Friday.